Got it.
So good afternoon, everybody. Ashley Velvet Frost here with INTUNE, and we're back for another episode. And this time it's with a very good friend of mine from Amsterdam, Merida Miller, who is also the founder and badass woman leading Project Fearless in Amsterdam, which is working with young girls, offering after-school programs and courses, and really empowering young women to become the bright future that they are set to be. So welcome, Merida. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Yeah, very well. I'm really happy to have you here.
Yeah, it's
I
good
can
good
already
to be
tell
here.
this is going to be like a really nice vibe because, yeah, we know each other very well from personal life as well.
Yeah.
But for the people who don't know Merida, I brought her on here because essentially she was my first ever INTUNE interviewee a year and a half ago when we sat in a park in Amsterdam. And yeah, I think that was one of the first times we properly met in person. And that was, it feels like a lifetime ago. And
Yeah,
to see the
really.
two people who were sat on the grass there in the sun where we were, our stages in life. And it just felt very appropriate now to have you back, that we're properly live with audio, video, and yeah, I just see so much change also in yourself as a person and also with your business. So yeah, Project Fearless used to be what I would put under beta, which is the connections category, but now also seeing the growth in Mare as herself, I would definitely put her into the THETA category as well, which is the direction and entrepreneurship and working with your passions and purpose. That's a
Yeah.
lot of P's. So would you be happy to give a little intro about yourself and yeah, what you've been doing all these years in Amsterdam? Because it's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. I just realized I hit 5 years in Amsterdam the other day, which was crazy. Like, that's longer than I spent anywhere in college or like my most previous place I was living. So, that's crazy. But yeah, to add to the P's, I always classify myself as a problem solver. So my past life is actually like before I was Project Fearless was I was a concept designer for an innovation team. It was like basically human-centric design for athletes using apparel as the solution. So now when people are like, oh, you were a fashion designer and now you do this, that seems really random. I was like, yeah, but I'm a problem solver. So if you're giving me like wood, we'll solve a problem with wood. If you give me ingredients, I'll bake a cake. So that's kind of what I think of myself as, very scrappy. But now I've been working on Project Fearless for 3 years. 2.5 of those years where it's been like alive and chugging in public, and I think 6 months of those were just me working on my business plan. And so yeah, so now we're 2.5 years in with our programs. We've reached over 424 girls and non-binary youth, which is insane. Like that's a crazy number. We do anything from skateboarding, kickboxing, bouldering to art to climate action. And we operate all over Amsterdam, also in New West, which is a huge neighborhood that is technically Amsterdam, but basically its own city because it's a massive, massive neighborhood with its own community and people and life. And so it's very cool to have all of those operating. And yeah, I don't know what else about what we do. I'd be curious.
And what kind of ages are the girls that you work
Yeah, so our core programs are for ages 9 through 14. But we also have a mentor program for teens, female identifying and gender fluid between the ages of 15 and 18. And the mentor program is really cool because it allows for the mentors themselves to be active role models in the younger girls program. So they come in and sort of bridge that gap between a coach and a girl, but then also they also get their own learning and leadership development as well, which is very cool.
Amazing. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like, so you have mainly women who are leading the different courses that you're doing, or I'd say like, yeah, people, because it's like, it's not just women leading it as well. So
yeah, it's people. We say, so are the people, our programs are for girls and gender fluid and non-binary youth, because we recognize that, gender is fluid and some of our kids are still identifying or discovering their identity. So really anybody who can identify with the girl experience in some way. And same thing with the coaches. So we really feel it's important to find role models that the kids can see themselves in. And so we say anybody who can identify with the experience of being a woman can be a coach. But our volunteer team is massive. Like behind the scenes is also, I mean, we have men, non-binary people, women, of all ages who help with the volunteer side, like the behind the scenes part. But the coaches, it was really important to have people who can really identify with the female experience and not only like, walk the walk, but share stories about themselves growing up and really relate to the girls at certain ages and parts of their life too.
Yeah, beautiful. And what was the inspiration for Project Fearless at the beginning?
Oh gosh, so many things. Like at the root of it, it was because I was really unhappy in my job. And I needed to, so as I was an advanced concept designer, I was super unhappy and I wanted to find something new. And I was like, for 2018, I was really grappling with depression, burnout, hitting a wall of just like literally going to different interviews and getting excited and then like crashing because I knew like, no, that's not it either. And so I had to do some personal deep diving of like, well, what's really going to make me happy? And knowing that when I am happy, I am the best Merida, and the best Merida is somebody who gives back to the world. Because that's just part of me. And so I really did some deep diving as to like, what are my values? What makes me hum? What makes me feel like I'm contributing in the best way? And I realized that I needed to create a space where I could cheer people on. Like I'm a woo girl, and like, but like the most authentic woo girl you ever met. Like I love cheering. Yeah, exactly. Love cheering people on. I really wanted to create a space where like it's a ripple effect impact. So like if I'm empowering one person, they're gonna go empower somebody else, or if I make that person stay happier, they're gonna go make somebody else stay happier. And then someplace that like I could be physically in it, so doing it. I'm not a great student unless you give me the building blocks to play with in the moment. I have to learn through failure. So I need to experience it myself. I need to fall down, get back up. I need to realize, oh yeah, that's the wrong way to do it, but I'm going to learn next time, and that physical activity is always really important to me. So that's kind of from the very personal standpoint of like why I created Project Fearless was this, or how it was like this deep dive of like Merida inside out to the world. When it came to the subject, there was a lot of different ideas. One was like, maybe I'll create like a space for women makers, like a huge warehouse where all these women makers could be set up and use the space together. And then there was, okay, then maybe I was like, well, then maybe I'll do kid programs, like essentially a Project Fearless, but for kids of all genders. Because I really, like, I remember vividly being like, I don't want to, even though it's okay. So all this is happening. And I was going to all these events in Amsterdam, and there were so many like entrepreneur females, ladies wine and design, lean in circles, all the stuff that was very focused on empowering women, which is wonderful. But there was a lot of things that I kept hearing that were stuff that I was like, God, I feel very lucky that from a young age I was taught and told, just be yourself, you can do this. It's going to be hard, but you can make through, or your voice matters. And so I really wanted to then focus on that next generation. And I thought at first I was like, well, I don't want to do just girls because girls are scary. When I was at the age of 9 through 11, like girls in middle school weren't very nice to me, and they weren't nice to each other. And it was like, well, fuck, I don't want to put myself in that again. Like that seems real scary. At the same time, I realized, okay, but maybe that's the problem statement. Like maybe there's something in here of like, because I know every female identifying person I can talk to, when you talk about middle school, like most of them could admit, yeah, girls were kind of nasty, like they played the mind games, they played it was why was that? And so I said, okay, well, that's it. I guess I'm gonna dive in. I'm gonna go out of my comfort zone. I want to work with girls. I want to give them the tools and the space to create the future they want to see, create the future I want to see. redefine success, redefine leadership, and create that space for all types of girls. So that's the story.
Yeah, because I can really resonate being in, I'm in primary school in the UK, but it's just like, it's a time I genuinely would never ever want to go back to. I feel like every girl has got Scorpio energy at that age. Like, it's like very intense.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you run these kind of programs, how do you kind of create the safe space or allow for this kind of, maybe call it natural energy that's coming up in girls, because it is also how we're learning and adapting to do relationships? Like, how do you stop this from also filtering into the courses that you're doing?
Yeah, sorry, I have something in my eye that I just realized. So like, you see me crying, it's not because I'm getting emotional just in one eye. Yeah, one of it was really creating a space outside of school. So we really encourage kids to sign up without their friends. We don't directly target one school to say, hey, this is a program for you. And I remember when we were first starting, schools were approaching us saying, hey, can you come and do something at our school, just for our school? And at the time, we were not big enough that we could handle that capacity. So we had to make the decision of like, it's either go on the like on school route. Sorry, I gotta take my contact out because it's just gonna drive me nuts. Yeah, there's a big old hair. Sorry. It was either, yeah, go on the route of connecting with one school and still making a difference in that, probably like that microcosm of the school, or it was creating a wider space. And for me, I also know when I was that age, when you were at school, you didn't define who you were. School and your peers defined who you were, right? You were labeled by everybody else other than yourself. And so first and foremost, I wanted to create that physical space, that physical difference of, this isn't school, this is apart from school. You're gonna meet people who will go to different schools. Maybe you're gonna see people you know, but most likely it's like one or two that you've passed in the hallways, which is actually kind of cool. And that physical barrier automatically allows you to kind of come in as who you want to be. So that's really important. Also, our coaches are super authentically themselves. Like, that's also it. We're all different, wild weirdos. We make mistakes, we laugh, we tell it like it is. And I think that's super refreshing to the kids too. Or we get to live in that really cool space of being like the fun, cool aunt, of like, like, we're older, so obviously we know some shit, but like we're not their parents, which like parents, I mean, we can love our parents all day long, but still when our parents say it sounds different than when like a cool aunt says something, right? And so that's like those physical space is really important. The other thing is that we talk about the idea that like, this is a place for you. Like, you get to make it how you want to make it. Like, do you want to make it a hostile space, or do you want to make it a supportive, loving space? Everybody says supportive space. We don't obviously frame it that way, but like, for instance, first day, we always set ground rules. What are some ground rules that we're going to set together? And it's always like, and they volunteer. Don't laugh at each other when you fall. Support each other no matter what, or like, yeah, support each other, help each other out when you're learning a new trick, teammates, leadership, we're all on the same team, communicate, things like that. I have cat hair all over my face. And that just sets the tone, and it really is so special. And then we also, throughout the course, we talk about scarcity mindset, we talk about fear of failure, we talk about growth mindset, boundaries, and how these things affect us all differently, right? So like, your growth circles may be very different than my growth circles, which doesn't mean that they're any less scary to you or me.
Yeah.
And how those individual pieces really kind of put some answers to how we all react differently. So you may have a fight instinct when something like that happens. I may have a flight instinct when something happens. Neither of those is wrong. But what we both can do is take a moment when this response comes up to take a moment and be like, whoa, what's happening? Why did my face just turn super flush? Why do I want to scream or run away or whatever? And then decide, was that because somebody just crossed my boundaries? Was it because they knew about my boundaries and crossed them, or is it because I haven't told them my boundaries yet? Like, what's going on? And just giving them those tools for like human life that I think I'm just not realizing. Like,
Yeah,
I literally write,
if you
yeah,
had that
yeah,
as a child, that would have been so informative, and especially if you're heading into puberty, like that is,
yes,
like sometimes there's not going to be any control because your hormones are like really overriding your
everywhere,
logical mind.
everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, you know, so it's those tools that aren't just like confident, stand up and speak for yourself, but also like the internal tools of like self-regulation and awareness and checking in and yeah, puberty, where the whole world is going to feel like it's against you and you're going to feel like you're against it and you have no idea why you're crying, but you are. Like, one, that's totally normal. Two, you can talk to us about it. Three, like go for a run because that really helps, you know? So like it's those things. And I often find myself when I'm talking with my adult friends or myself or in therapy, and I'm like, oh, this is a lesson. So then I go back and like write it in the terms of like, if I'm talking to a 9-year-old, how I'm going to break this, how am I breaking this down?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're always, it's all learning together. And I think when you show up authentically, it helps others feel the freedom of being authentic.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love it. I mean, the thing that always struck me was that you had girls doing skateboarding and girls doing like kickboxing. And that was something that, I mean, not everyone was used to seeing that kind of sight of
Mhm.
like 15 girls, all like the helmets and their colored boards.
Yeah.
And, like, I mean, also yourself, your journey through becoming really good at skateboarding. Like, I think you
Yeah,
started
which
also
I'm
as a
super good, but
beginner.
yes. Yeah. All solar. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love that it's not, and I'm not saying that things like dance classes are bad, but it's like it's really nice to see activities that are a bit different, that are really
Totally.
expanding the fearlessness as well.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. And that was their whole goal, was that I wanted to create a space for like all types of girls, right? So I think there's so many labels that we are getting rid of. Like, I definitely can see our girls changing them, which is awesome. But there's still limitations of like, oh, well, I'm not a girly girl.
Mhm.
So obviously, so if I'm not a girly girl, I have to do these things. And I couldn't possibly like dance or art. Oh, well, I'm not um, I'm not very good at sports. So I couldn't possibly like or to even try skateboarding.
Mhm.
So it's getting them to know that like you don't, like, you can be bad at something and still like it, like, or you can try something and still wear a dress. You can still be a girly girl and a sporty girl. Like, we're so multifaceted. Like, how do we enjoy that and create that space? So that's also what we do, is we have these different programs so kids can try them and just see. I've had kids who've now are on like year 2 or whatever, and they fit in every single one of our possible offerings, and they're just trying it, and why not? And that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I love that you've also had kids that are like coming back, that they're really
Mhm.
going through almost like a cohort with you. So they're it's like
Yeah.
Project Fearless School in a sense.
Yeah, I'm so thankful. I have some that have been with me since day one. It's just the coolest thing ever, like seeing their growth, and they're literally like little fearless energies, where I know that I can rely on them if I'm in a course and there's a whole bunch of new kids, and the new kids are like not really, maybe they're a bit nervous. I can, hey, Rhea, can you go chat with this girl? And she's more than happy, and she's fearless, and she knows how to bring them into the fold and really respect them and make them feel like everybody else there.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, they're almost like your little ambassadors as they grow up as
Yeah,
well. I
yeah,
mean, that's the thing.
definitely.
It's like, but that's why it comes under connections. That you are truly building like a movement, also with these
Mhm.
girls individually, but collectively as well. Like,
Yeah.
and it has your energy all the way through it. I love it.
Yeah. Thanks.
And I mean, there's something that I think I asked you this even last time. It's like, what are the main challenges that you see that these girls are facing nowadays? Because even from when we were younger, which is now, we're not going to reveal our ages, but like it was not recently.
Right.
Like
Oh my
even
God.
like there was technology around when I was at school, MSN, already
Mhm.
cyberbullying started, already like
Mm.
new technologies. And nowadays there's more, all kids have like Instagram and TikTok and social media.
Yeah.
So what kind of shifts do you see happening of what these girls are struggling with?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is the inability to turn off, because everywhere they go, they are online,
Mm,
right? So it's from FaceTiming their grandma, which is quite innocent and great, to like TikTok to Instagram. And when you're on these platforms and WhatsApp, right? Like how many times have I looked at WhatsApp and been like, cannot be bothered to answer the 32 messages that even if they're from friends, I just can't be bothered. And well, when you're young and in adolescence, your peers are so important. You're still figuring out your boundaries. You don't want to be left out because that could be the time you've been left out of the moment, you know? But also when you're on all these platforms, there's so much going on in the world that cries for our attention. And from both a look at this adorable cat video to look at these horrible things that are happening in, you know, Palestine, like there's just so much and you can't escape it. Like it's in your eyeballs. It's confronting you at all times. So there's this feeling of never being able to step away and step off and unplug without the fear of missing something important with your friends, not being in the circle, but then also when you're on these platforms, you're just constantly bombarded, and that feeling of never doing enough, never being enough. Like, who am I? How can I possibly make a difference in the fact that the world is burning? So, like, things that we all probably feel as adults, but when you're a child navigating that, that's your brain's still developing, you're still figuring out your space in the world. Like, that's exhausting. Compounded by the fact that you still have to go to school and you still have to do homework and you still have to get an A on that test. Otherwise, you may fail. And, you know, like all these things are just constantly talking to you. And it's really tough to get away. So, I mean, definitely this, you know, studies have shown that like mental health is an increased priority in the sense that like a lot of kids are experiencing stress and depression at like numbers that they've never seen before. Compounded by COVID and you know the whole world's stress, and yeah, and it's just it's tough. It's a lot out there, and then of course there are the stuff that we already knew, right? Like Instagram knows that it causes bad body image disorders in young girls, and yet we're still using it, you know. And like I'm still using Instagram. I still consider putting a filter on or changing or like covering up a pimple or covering up my wrinkles on my eyes, like I still have that conversation with myself. And I'm 33. But I still have that conversation with myself of like, ooh, don't post that. You look, you know, what it's not a good angle or whatever. And it's just these things are so ingrained in us. And so yeah, it's they're dealing with a lot.
Yeah. And are there any courses that you're offering? Like something that comes to mind, it's almost like meditation and like yoga and things like that for young people to try out as well. Like if somebody had taught me how to meditate, and I do think my mom desperately tried to like show me. She like taught me body scans when I couldn't see, but it's like I never really made that connection that it was meditation. And I just feel like that is the gateway to peace of mind.
Yes.
In a fire of the world going on around you, that's inside your
right.
Oh.
Yeah. So we have, I mean, we definitely teach body scans and taking pauses and breath work and things like that. We also talk about boundaries is a big thing of like, you know, you can set your boundaries on your Instagram. Like you don't have to follow everybody, or you can mute people and they don't need to know.
Great.
Muting's the best. You can also unfollow people, and like, guess what? If they get mad, like ain't nobody's problem but theirs. And we haven't done full on meditation, but we do have, you know, I would say mindfulness practice of like just enjoying the process. Like that's the biggest thing in all of our programs. It's like, it's the process, it's not the end goal. It's just being there. And, you know, I know at the skate park, the girls do like the fact that you have this much time to just, you're not allowed on your phone. So you're just here. And where else can you be but here? And talk about your feelings a lot. We do a lot of that of like, you know, the best way to set your own boundaries is to share with your friends. Hey, by the way, I'm not feeling super enthusiastic today. So if you don't see me doing that, it's not you, it's nothing, but also please like take a moment before you come screaming into my face. And those little tools are so helpful.
Yeah.
We do have a course that we're working on. Well, it's slowly building it, but it's like a music video course, and they're also learning how to create AR filters.
Oh,
And
wow.
so we'll have a whole conversation around that, and like, what does that mean? And like, you know, face changing things. Is that good? Is that bad? Is it like, how do you feel about it? So yes, we try to just, a lot of them is also just open conversation. You know, it's not necessarily us sitting there and saying like, you need to feel amazing about your body. It's, how do you feel about your body? What are things we can do together? Or like, what do you wish something new? Or what are some tools that we could do to change that a little bit? You know, because nobody's going to go home and be like, wow, what a great class. I no longer consider all the things that people must be thinking about me, or this Instagram post. Like, that's not life.
Yeah, it's almost like encouraging just critical thinking in the girls, of like, not to take everything at face value, not to take everything as this is how I should think and be. It's, yeah, like you say, to really empower them to be their own being, their own guidance system with everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, is there anything, I 100% remember asking you this as well before, but is there anything that they could be teaching us? Because like, there's also, as we get older, we become these robots who are fitting into like society and expectations, and we're wearing masks, and we're just like la 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 on the little escalator of life, and we forget our inner child so much. Like, that's part of, like, I think most people's journey on their spiritual personal development is like unlearning everything and just coming back to the energy you had when you were like 8. So is it, what could the girls teach us and the listeners as well?
God, we have a whole little video of them like telling like little clips of, you know, of just try it, you may like it, or like little things like that, or like, you know, you never know what's on the other side, like silly things like that, which are they're silly, but they're very important. I think the biggest one,
the way on
I'll send it to you. It's so cool. It's so funny. They're great. Yeah, I think that thing of like, and you see it, I mean, it's you said it's like, it's proof, it's, you see it in adults, but you also see it in a younger age too. Like, you know, studies have shown that between the ages of like up until a kid hits puberty, they're like their most fearless, authentic, give a shit self, you know, and then puberty hits, and all of a sudden they start being more aware of the world and what's on their shoulders, and these stereotypes and gender roles and everything like that they have to kind of now conform to and think about. And so when I think about it, I think like, I wish we were more willing to just try things, to just be okay with being bad at stuff, you know, and just okay with exploring different ideas. I wish for the whole world we were given a time to pause, that pausing was okay. Because I think that's something we're taught from a very young age, is that it's like, make a decision right now. You know, you got to go. What's the answer? There's no time to wait. And that can be tough, because then when you need to take a pause, it feels like the world is rushing past you. And when you have to take a moment to align, it's like, why am I feeling this way? Or why am I doing this? Am I doing this because I want to do this? Or am I doing this because I think I should do this? Or, you know, but we're not given that time anymore. So I don't know if they could teach us that, but that's definitely something I wish that we all would learn. Yeah, I think also the whole, just being your authentic self, and being, I had this really hilarious moment with one of the girls. I realized I was I realized that so anytime something would happen at the skate park, or we were trying to like push boundaries or something like that, I would always say, I'm really conscious that blah 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 blah. So somebody said, oh, can we do this? And I said, well, I'm just conscious that we come as a big pack, we're taking up a lot of space, which is great, we should be here, but we also need to share the park, something like that. And so some of it is valid consciousness, some of it is valid like awareness, and some of it was, and so something happened and somebody said, can we do this? And I said, I'm just conscious that blah, blah. And this girl goes, "You're always really conscious." And I was like, yeah, like that was my way of saying, I'm aware that the rest of the world is looking at us. And and that was my like fear of sticking out or doing the wrong step or things like that. And so that was a really good one of maybe just be less conscious, like maybe just kind of go with the flow and, know that you are like, I don't have bad intentions in me. So if we end up in a bad situation, okay, like, yeah, we'll learn from it, but maybe just take a little more of those steps to just to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a bit of a cliche. Probably most of the boys or men at the skate park probably not worrying about whether they're getting in your way, even if there's 15 of you. They're just gonna be like,
Yeah,
whatever, it's my right to be here. Like I'm gonna enjoy it, go on this ramp. Like
exactly. So that was a real like, I think that was definitely a switching point in myself in the skate park, particularly of like, yeah, okay, we need to be here. Like we're here and we're gonna take up space. And yeah,
you get to have the audacity, just like
exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so something that's kind of coming up because you've talked about not pausing, and this is not just for kids. And I also realize that they're probably using technology also at school nowadays. There's like on the computers and iPads, and like it's like non-stop technology. And I'm wondering also in terms of like how the pandemic really impacted the girls, because when we sat down to talk at the first time, this was only like month 2 of the pandemic, I think, where we'd just been allowed to go out for walks and stuff.
Yeah.
So a lot has shifted then, and we're still like in it. We're not out of it yet, whilst maybe in the next year or so. But how has that also impacted your projects and B, the girls?
Yeah. So knock on wood, project wise, it hasn't affected us that much, which is great. At the very beginning, yeah, we had to go virtual, which I hate virtual. And so it was a real out of my own comfort zone situation. But we only had to do that for like 6 weeks. And then kids were the first thing that were allowed to be outside together. So we were able to move a lot of our programs outside. It was summer, it was skateboarding, it was run club and kickboxing. And then since then, I would say the Netherlands has been very proactive in getting kids back to normalcy, whatever that means in this new world. I would say, yeah, during you're right, they have to be online. I know virtual schooling was super stressful for all of them, everybody for different reasons. I had a lot of kids who flat out had panic attacks anytime they had to log into their computer, because they hated the idea of being on the screen and sitting there and like seeing everybody's faces just staring back at them. A lot of it's exhausting to be online all the time. I mean, like, yeah, even when you're doing these cool interviews and podcasts, like if you after 3 of in a row, you're like, whoa, like, wow, am I so zapped? And same with the kids. The feedback loop wasn't there, so they weren't able to approach their school as much, their teachers as much, to say, hey, I'm struggling with this, or their teachers weren't able to have as many eyes on them because the teachers were also struggling. So a lot of the kids have been really stressed with schoolwork recently. Like that's always what I hear. We have so much work at school, so much pressure, and that's scary and exhausting. And but I would say we've been very lucky that we had 2 programs that were put on pause this winter since the lockdown from November. One of those has been able to jump back in. The other one is we're waiting for it to start again. So for the most part, we've been able to do that. But it has been, you're always having to be adaptable. You're always having to be like, well, like, what if, what if this happens? Where do we go? What if this happens? What do we do? And yeah, so it's a whole new world. I don't know from the girl standpoint, like, they are stressed out about school. I think that's the biggest thing, is they feel like they're not supported at school. They feel like they don't have the resources, and the teachers expect a lot from them. They feel like it's not warranted. Like they feel like they don't have they're like, yeah, okay, you expect all this, but like you weren't, my teacher wasn't in school herself the last 3 days. And so I'm struggling with this and I don't have anybody to turn to. And or yeah, so it's
Yeah.
tough.
I mean, it's like, that sounds like my university experience, but that's when you choose to go to university and they're meant to encourage like self-study and
Yes.
like self-ownership. But if you're like 9 years old, 10 years old, like that's not the dynamic. You need the guidance. Like even to your teacher to just come by the desk and be like, how's it going? Like which problem are you struggling with? Like,
right, yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
I really
And
don't
I mean,
envy it.
I feel so bad for teachers too, right? Because this isn't what they signed up for. They didn't sign up to be behind a computer, and they miss that interaction just as much as everybody else. So it's a real, I can't imagine being a teacher or a student at this time. It'd be really tough.
Yeah. Well, then I think the other area that we can maybe touch on, which maybe links to like the kind of burnout area, is like the difference I see in you from a year and a half ago to today. I mean, when I saw you in the park, it was very much like you was, I don't know how, like a year into starting, or like, I mean, we'd had the pandemic, we'd had everything.
Yeah, we
going
just started. Yeah, so I've been like almost a year.
And I mean, yeah, you're one of the women in my life that really is an entrepreneur, like you say, problem solver. You get shit done no matter what the task is. So I'm just curious if you have any words of like how your journey has been, like any advice you can give, because I know a lot of people listening will also be on this entrepreneur journey. And yeah, I mean, I'm also just curious because it's gonna that's the perks of doing this podcast. I get
Right.
from people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely almost hit rock. Well, I have hit rock bottom multiple times. And that's been, I think, the toughest. I think one of the toughest things is the fact that, like, for me, Project Fearless is literally me. Like it is. Like, if you think about my journey of how I got to making Project Fearless, it was like, okay, what is Merida? And then so put it out there. So on one hand, it's really amazing to work on. It's really beautiful. It comes with a lot of passion and energy. On the other hand, it's really hard to turn off from. It's really hard to step away from. It's really hard to know when to step away. I've gotten a lot better at it. I've gotten a lot better at separating, because for a while, Merida and Project Fearless were like this, like how do I separate the two when they are so intertwined? And now I'm starting to, they're still parallel, but I'm starting to create a space that is just Merida, and I'm starting to create a space that is just Project Fearless, which is amazing. A lot of that has to do with the team that I've built and amazing humans that help Project Fearless run, because then I can really feel like this can run without me, which is awesome. It's scary, but awesome. And so finding people who believe in the mission, who want to work for the mission, who want to create the same dream I do with their own dreams, tied in, right? So that's the other cool part, is everybody who joins Project Fearless has a very different reason for why they're there. So how are they making sure they're getting that out of it? So that team has been integral to making it so that I can take some moments back, that I don't constantly feel like I have to be sprinting all the time. But also part of that was also literally hitting rock bottom and being like, I don't know if I can keep going. I don't know if I can financially keep doing this. I don't know if emotionally, physically, all of these things. And giving myself some hard timelines. So like this past summer, it was like, if by November we don't have X, Y, and Z funding support, like we're probably gonna have to close our doors, because I'm also, and I'm sure any entrepreneur, any small business owner throughout the pandemic can tell you, they're fucking exhausted of being resilient and flexible. Like everybody's like, oh my God, you're always pivoting, you've thought of this, and that's amazing. It's like, yes, but every time you have to reinvent yourself, it's so exhausting. And every time you have to do that and try to align it with yourself and your own vision is also exhausting. And you don't have to. You don't have to, because I've had board members who are like, well, we really want to pull you away from being in the courses because that takes up so much of your time, and we really want you to be in strategy. And I was like, you do that and this whole thing will burn down, because what I get the energy from is the courses.
Yeah.
So, and that's how I get the insights. I'm a researcher. Like that's how I get the insights to know that we're doing right or that we're doing wrong, that we need to change. So, I think for me, just being authentic with what I want it to be and where I see myself, and also knowing that like we may not get there, and that's okay, and that I'll have to just go down saying like I gave it a real good try, but it didn't work out. And yeah, I mean, luckily, knock on wood, we haven't had to. I think we were also chatting about like surrender mode and the fact that I've definitely had some moments being like, wow, like we're either gonna make it or we're not. Who cares? Yeah, literally, like, you know, and like we've all been swept out to the ocean. The waves are rising and falling, and the water is holding you, so that's all you can do, and you gotta keep going. And you either paddle, or you float, or you swim like hell, and then you float again. Like, so yeah, just kind of understanding that they were all in these big waves of energy, and like surrendering is the biggest thing. Surrender mode has been where I've been living the last, like, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months. I've been living in surrender mode. It's good. There's a freedom in that.
Yeah. And there's something in the words you just said about like, if we may not make it, but I really want to reiterate, like, I don't know what you think making it is, but the fact that you've impacted so many girls already means you have already made it. Just may not be whatever the big vision of, and like even just one girl being impacted in it. It's just beautiful.
Absolutely. And I think that is where I am lucky, in the sense that, like, if we were to fall tomorrow, I can say we did really good fucking work, and we did impact this many people, and I know that they're going to go do great fucking work. So I feel very privileged. I think that also happens with the surrender mode, is I've been able to get to surrender mode because I've reached that. That definitely helps, you know, because we're no longer in that like early phases of like, please like me, you know, please accept my impact and my gift. And now people really appreciate, and we can see it, and it's there. So yeah, there is a little privilege in that space. Yeah, exactly.
And is there any advice or tips you can give to people who are at that rock bottom? Because it's like now when you have the momentum going, it's almost like little trains like chugging up a hill, little steam train. But then there's also if for like what you would have said to Merida, who was at rock bottom in one of those moments.
Yeah, I would have said, go to the doctor, get back on your medication. That would have been like first step. Which I did this summer, and that's been like life-changing as well. But I would say just trust the process, like trust the waves, and trust the, like, what will be, you know, like that's the surrender mode too, of like, you have everything in you to figure this out, and every step of the way you will figure something out. It's not worth, whatever it is, it's not worth destroying yourself, your being, your passion, and your partnerships with whatever you have. So it's really important to take the space you need, and it will get there. I think that's with this whole like, well, we gotta do everything right now. We need, you know, if we don't say yes to this and this and that, and so it's that moment of like, no, you can do this at your own pace, and that's still great. You're still moving forward, whatever that pace is, you know, and rest is a pace, you know, rest is a movement forward. So take those times, and be present. I think I made a very active, conscious thing last year, when it was like spring or something like that, of like, what do I really want to do? And my biggest thing was, I want to be present in the moment of Project Fearless, because I'd created this momentum, I created this thing, and it was so amazing, and it was going so fast that I could barely keep up, and I was feeling depleted and exhausted. But then I was getting to the coaching part, which I do love, and I was also just depleted and exhausted and like not present. And I hated that, because I felt like it was a disservice to the girls, and it was a disservice to me. Like, Merida, you built this thing. It's a fucking awesome. Be there, enjoy it. And so I've really tried to be real present. Just like with the girls, like phones away, everything's away. We are here for 2 hours, just enjoying the fact that we are here for 2 hours with each other. Right. And that's really helped too, is like, yeah, having those little moments of like, this is so nice. Like, this is my job. This is so cool. You know, it's a tiny piece of my job, but it is a job that I created. It's the space I made. How amazing is that?
It's honestly, that's been such an inspiration. It's really, yeah. honestly do.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I know that there's lots of things planned for Project Fearless, and whilst this is more for the Amsterdam area, but are there any ways in particular, if there's people listening who are like, I identify with the experience of being a woman and I have something that I could offer, or they have children that could be interested in this, like how can people work with you?
Yeah, definitely. So our website, projectfearless.org, is the biggest thing, or our Instagram, which is project.fearless. You can reach out to on either of those platforms. If it's something that you're like, oh, I really want to, we have multiple ways you can work with us. You can work with us as a coach. So that's like an 8-week commitment, one day a week for 8 weeks. And we have pillars, like our programs fall under sports and movement and mindfulness. And then we also have the maker space, which is art, science, creative, and then leadership and community. So that could be mentor program, entrepreneurism, all those things. So if you're somebody who's like, oh, I know how to skateboard, or I do something already that you do, I want to lend a hand, awesome. Or if you're like, hey, for instance, somebody's reached out, it's like, I'm a filmmaker and I want to teach films, like, cool, let's figure out how we write a course together. So you can go on our website, you can do like an application, an open application, and that also goes for people who are more behind the scenes. So if you are somebody who doesn't maybe want to be or can't because of time or whatever for coaching, you said like, oh, I'd really like to help with operations, or see if maybe you need an extra this, that, and the other, you can apply for our current roles, or you can send an open application, share your skills, share us what Project Fearless means to you, why you want to be here. And then if you have kids, like we have events, we have workshops, we have the 8-week-long program. So our website and our social media is always where you can find more about it. So come find us, come say hi. Our goal is like, so we're in Amsterdam now, but our goal is by the end of this year to be ready, or either be ready to, or going into another city within the Netherlands. So that's exciting. I don't know which city yet. Rotterdam keeps coming up, so who knows? That might be the next one. So if you're in Rotterdam and you want to talk, like we're gonna need some help because I don't live there, obviously. Many ways to connect and get involved, and also just chat and see where we go next.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I can't recommend you enough because I just really wholly believe in everything you're doing. So I'm going to leave you with one last question. And this is, how are you being fearless today?
Today I'm taking a mental health day. Actually. So my fearlessness today was the fact that I woke up quite cranky, quite like, I don't know, just like tired, and I didn't want to work out, which is like a big sign of like something's weird. And so I said, you know what, I have 2 work calls and I have this call, and that's all I'm doing today, and maybe some admin because it just doesn't feel right. And I think that's a real fearless move, actually, is to honor that, take a nap, eat some peanut butter, and just be in the funk and acknowledge the funk. Like, you're in a cranky, sad, funky mood. That's okay.
Like honoring your body. I can't respect that even more.
But I feel like I've learned that from some like people like yourself, or like so many. I feel like there's so many inspiring women who are like talking about it and normalizing it to the point where you're like, I'm gonna try this. This is so out of my comfort zone. Like, but I'm gonna try it, And so kudos to you for creating that space and showing us we can, and showing that life still goes on if you take a goddamn nap on a Monday.
Yeah, like I even yesterday woke up feeling awful and just decided to go do like shaking and emotional release to kind of wake up.
I loved it. I know, I loved it.
You just have to listen. Like, your body is really smart and it's trying to tell you stuff. So
smart.
I think really we've both come a long way since that time in the park when we were.
I know. I can't wait to see you in like 3 years where we're gonna be. We're gonna be like, I don't know, what kind of form are we interviewing, and or maybe not 3 years, like let's not wait that long, but like,
we're going to be at least in my like professional podcast studio. I mean, albeit it may still be in Spain, which is where I'm calling in from because it's hella warm and nice here. But we're going to be, I can't wait.
Awesome.
I mean, I want to have you back every year.
Yes, perfect, good.
You'll be
and
like,
if it's in Spain, that's great.
Now across Europe, and it's going into the US soon.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, exactly. We'll be launching our Spain one when I'm over there. So that's
Okay,
the
well, I
goal.
want to thank you so much for being on again and for
Of
doing
course.
full circle from the first time that I spoke with you. And for everyone else
Yeah.
listening, thank you, and we will see you next time.